Hello, welcome back to Luke's English Podcast, a podcast for learners of English all around the world. This episode is all about technology in our everyday lives, and it's the second part of a two-part episode. Have you seen part one yet? If you haven't checked out part one, have a look at that. It's the episode that I published just before this one. But this is part two then, so let's continue. Technology has become a central part of our lives to the point that we can hardly live without it, and this includes the connectivity of the internet and the convenience of smartphones. Our lives are filled with small choices about how we interact with this technology in various ways. How can we get the benefits of it without suffering from the negative effects? How do we limit our screen time, control the amount of private information we give in return for the convenience of so many online services? How do we protect ourselves from harmful behaviour we might encounter online? How do we maintain truly meaningful and beneficial relationships? How do we limit the environmental and social impacts of technology? And how can we make sure that technology keeps our children safe and not vice versa the other way around? So what I'm doing in this two-part episode is exploring these ideas, discussing them, while also helping you with vocabulary on this subject in order to help prepare you to be able to talk about these things in English too. I want to show you the various terms and expressions we use in English when discussing these things to allow you to talk about these things too. So I've prepared various discussion questions on a variety of issues, and I'm answering them while pointing out vocabulary. You can use these questions too for your own speaking practice and a chance to use new vocabulary you can pick up from me, and you'll find all my notes along with the discussion questions and full vocabulary lists with definitions, examples and memory questions on the PDF for this episode, which you can directly download from the link in the show notes in the episode description. So in part one of this series, I talked about privacy versus convenience, data sharing, digital detox, online behaviour, digital legacy, tech addiction, and tech for children. Now in part two, the plan is to cover these topics: information quality and fact checking, so that's the dangers of fake news and misinformation online; digital sustainability; AI and automation, a huge subject today, which deserves, which I have talked about on the podcast before. I've done several episodes now about artificial intelligence, one generally about the effects of it, and also one about how to use AI to help to improve your English with podcasts. Also, security practices, surveillance and privacy, tech company ethics, and technology and well-being. So big themes for discussion, and just something for you to consider. Do you know the various issues relating to those things? Could you talk about those things in conversation in English? This episode is here to help you to do those things. Okay, so let's continue. I have to remember to set a timer for a water break in 30 minutes. So I've done that. There, my timer is going. In about 30 minutes, I'll have a break for some water. Also, I want to remember to add vocabulary to my notes. I've still got some notes going for vocabulary. I'll try to do that during the episode, but if I'm too involved in talking about these subjects, I will certainly add vocab that has come up and which I've explained. I will add that into my vocabulary list, and you will find it on the PDF in full detail with everything that you need to help you really expand your vocabulary with this episode. But right now, all you need to do really is just listen, keep up, and just think yourself, how would you answer these questions, and what do you know about these issues? You can always leave your comments in the comments section if you'd like to add to this to the discussion. There are bound to be things that I'm missing here. I mean, I'm an English teacher and citizen of the world, human being, and just like you, my life is impacted by technology so much these days, more and more. We are kind of influenced and affected by developments in technology so much, but I'm no expert. I'm just talking in layman's terms here, But I'm curious to know what you think too, so leave your comments in the comments section. Let's move on then with the next item in my list, the next topic, and this is information quality, the quality of information that we find online probably. With so much content online, not everything we read is true. It's crucial to assess the credibility of information, especially with fake news, deep fakes, and AI-generated content becoming harder to spot. Knowing how to fact check and think critically stops us from spreading misinformation ourselves. But realistically, are we really able to accurately fact check online information? So I think we're all aware of the dangers of fake news or misinformation. So misinformation is essentially spreading false information or spreading information which is not true. To be misinformed, to misinform someone, and the spread of misinformation online. Obviously, there's a lot of it. We all know that we should try to avoid misinformation, but it can be difficult to spot it, especially nowadays with the rise of AI-generated content, which makes it harder and harder to spot, for example, video or audio content which is not real. I've talked in the past recently about the sort of slew of AI-generated podcasts for learners of English, which you can find a lot on YouTube, and I'm sure that lots of people don't realise that that content is AI-generated. It's two hosts talking about a subject. Yes, there's a lot of it about. Now, maybe it's not a problem if that's your cup of tea, if that's the kind of thing you want. If you listen to that kind of thing and you think, yeah, this is great, then maybe it's not a problem. Except that there are obviously many, many ramifications of the rise of AI. We'll be going into that in a moment. But what we need to focus on here in this section is information quality. So the truthfulness of the information that we encounter online and knowing how to fact check. That's very difficult. I have to say, I think it's difficult to know when information you're receiving is real or fake. Sometimes you have just a kind of you sort of have a natural instinct for sort of detecting whether something is true or not, which is not perhaps very reliable. But it's a tricky thing, isn't it? It's again, one of the tricky parts of modern life is those moments when you think to yourself, wait a minute, how can I be sure that the information I'm getting here is actually true or not true? And we live in a world now where there is a climate of anxiety and possibly even paranoia over, the thought that maybe the whole world that we are exposed to is a simulation. Maybe everything is, all the information we receive is closely controlled. And I often think about this when I think of the way that I see the world from my sort of European Western viewpoint. I see the world, the state of the world in a certain way, but you from another country, another part of the world, from a different geopolitical perspective, you might see things in a totally different way. We both look at the world from different positions, in different climates, in different information climates. That our information is restricted or certain narratives are given to us, and we might have totally different perceptions of the same events because of the information ecosystems that we live in. It's quite a strange experience, really, when you know of the proliferation of propaganda or of manipulated information. You know that's a possibility, but it's almost like you're sort of powerless to spot when you're being manipulated and when you're not being manipulated. It's not particularly nice environment to be living in, is it? And this was I felt this was very kind of tangible when we all lived through the COVID-19 pandemic, because that was a very strange time. And there was a lot of cynicism or skepticism over the information that was going around. Now, there was a lot of fake news going around about COVID-19. All sorts of theories and ideas were shared online to a lot, right? There was a ton of misinformation about it, a lot of speculation, and it was hard to identify it. So I actually want to do a case study. In part one, I did a couple of case studies to sort of demonstrate the things that I'm talking about. I'd like to do a case study about misinformation and COVID-19. So let's do that. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of fake news online, and it was hard to separate the genuine information about staying safe and the fake things. This was part of the worrying and stressful climate at the time. We didn't quite know what was real and what was fake. There is still disagreement about the validity of the official vaccines, of course. But other stories were shared at this time, which have since been proven clearly to be untrue and dangerous. One of the most compelling real-world case studies demonstrating the importance of fact-checking information shared online revolves around medical misinformation and the methanol poisoning incident. Did you hear about this? Methanol is an organic chemical compound. This is from Wikipedia, just to explain what methanol is. It's an organic chemical compound and the simplest aliphatic alcohol with the chemical formula CH3OH. It is a light, volatile, colourless and flammable liquid with a distinctive alcoholic odour similar to that of ethanol, but is more acutely toxic than the latter. So it's a kind of pure, simple form of alcohol. Okay. So anyway, so the methanol poisoning incident, I don't know if you heard about this. So the misinformation first. As the COVID-19 pandemic gripped the world in early 2020, various unverified cures and preventative measures began circulating rapidly online, especially on social media platforms. One particularly dangerous piece of misinformation claimed that consuming highly concentrated alcohol, specifically methanol, could kill the coronavirus or prevent infection. This was often spread through distorted or outright fabricated expert advice. So distorted meaning exaggerated or changed in some way, or outright fabricated. Fabricated means just made up, constructed, not true, just made up. So this was spread through distorted or fabricated expert advice. Information presented as expert advice, but it was just made up nonsense. You can think to yourself, why would people do that? I don't know. But it was shared widely in online groups and messaging apps. Lack of fact-checking. In regions where trust in official sources might have been low, or where access to accurate health information was limited, this false claim spread unchecked. This is kind of important, that these sorts of things, the proliferation of this dangerous misinformation often happens in places where there is a low level of trust in official sources, like government sources are not trusted, or where accurate to health information is limited, where people don't have access to transparent, freely available, reliable, trustworthy health information. Right? So people desperate for a solution to the terrifying new virus believed and acted upon this unverified information. The consequences? The result was tragic. In Iran, for example, reports emerged of hundreds of people dying and thousands being hospitalized after ingesting methanol in the mistaken belief it would protect them from COVID-19. Many also suffered permanent damage, including blindness. Similar incidents, though perhaps less widespread, were reported in other countries where this particular piece of misinformation gained traction. The importance of fact-checking, preventing physical harm and health. Had robust, this means strong, basically robust, strong, reliable, solid, that's robust. So had robust, timely fact-checking mechanisms been in place, meaning if robust, timely, meaning quick, fact-checking mechanisms, these are, let's say, services or methods of verifying information being spread online. These are fact-checking mechanisms. If they were robust, it means they're reliable, solid, strong, and timely, meaning that they are able to respond quickly You see this on some social media platforms where a post is shared, and quite quickly underneath it, if the let's say the algorithm or whatever, the software that the software system there will pick up on these things and quickly add fact-checking information underneath posts like that, if the system is good. But so had, meaning if, robust, timely fact-checking mechanisms been in place and widely trusted, this deadly misinformation could have been debunked, meaning proven to be false, before it led to such severe consequences. Public health authorities and fact-checking organisations around the world did eventually issue warnings, but often not before significant harm had already occurred. Maintaining public trust in health authorities. The spread of such dangerous falsehoods also eroded, meaning, let's say, slowly damaged, public trust in legitimate medical advice and institutions. When people can't distinguish between true and false health information online, they become more susceptible to harmful practices and less likely to follow evidence-based guidelines. Resource misallocation. This is where perhaps resources, including money or medical knowledge, is allocated, meaning given to the wrong areas. Hospitals and medical professionals were burdened not only with COVID-19 cases, but also with treating victims of methanol poisoning, diverting critical resources during a global health crisis. So not only were those people affected directly by this methanol poisoning, but it also meant that health professionals were unable to treat the people who were suffering from COVID-19. So it might have even led to further deaths or issues, because everyone, the health professionals were too busy dealing with this methanol crisis at the same time. So this case vividly illustrates that unverified information online isn't just harmless gossip or a minor inconvenience. In critical situations, it can have direct, devastating and even fatal consequences. It underscores or emphasises the vital role of fact-checkers, credible news organisations and media literacy initiatives in combating the spread of dangerous misinformation and protecting public safety. I mean, who knew that the truth was important? I mean, it's, it can't be underestimated, the importance of maintaining good information verification systems. So questions. Can you think of any examples of misinformation being spread online? Can you think of any specific examples? Can you describe what they were? I've got a few examples. Could AI cause the spread of misinformation? AI, can you say it? AI. Yeah, could AI, that's artificial intelligence, obviously. Could AI cause the spread of misinformation? How? Do you know about deep fakes and voice emulation? What are the implications of this? And what's the best example of an AI video you've seen to date? How long did it take you to realise it was AI generated? So loads of questions there, lots of talking points. Again, I encourage you to try to answer these questions yourselves. Even if you don't have someone to chat to in English, you could still do what I'm doing and try to answer these questions on your own. Make a note of the bits of vocab I'm using to talk about these things. See if you can add those things into your answers as well. So can you think of any examples of misinformation being spread online? I think probably the examples that come to mind for me most easily are ones around the Brexit campaign, and there was a lot of misinformation, I think, on the Leave side of the debate. Maybe there was misinformation on the Remain side, but I don't really think it was that noticeable, and I think that it was much more noticeable on the Leave side. So a lot of the arguments for leaving the EU were based on exaggerated claims or, frankly, false claims. For example, there was the Boris bus when Boris Johnson was campaigning for the UK to leave the EU, despite previously being in favour of membership. One of the things he did is he travelled around the country in a big red bus, and on the side of the bus it said, "We give the EU £350 million a week, let's give it to the NHS instead. The NHS is the National Health Service. So very clearly saying, we give the EU this much money every week, let's just give it to the NHS. Now, of course, people in the UK love the NHS. We understand how important the National Health Service is. We understand that it needs funding, it needs investment, needs money. And that was just not true. It was proven that that amount of money was grossly exaggerated. It was just not true. And also, as we saw later, there was no plan to reinvest that money in the NHS. So that's generally widely considered to be a lie, a false promise. And of course, that was really, really enabled by the ease of the spread of information online. There are lots of other myths as well being spread around, like the story that Turkey was about to join the European Union, which would open the door to all sorts of unchecked immigration. There were myths about European legislation, about laws. The typical myths were that the EU is very intrusive with its lawmaking and always wants to try to tell British businesses and British consumers exactly what they can and cannot do, even down to specific things like legislating about the size and shape of bananas, or the fact that British kettles that we use to make cups of tea will be banned by the EU. A lot of these things constantly being spread in the traditional press, but being exacerbated by the spread of information online as well. That's stuff that I noticed. What about you? Have you ever seen specific examples of misinformation being spread online? It's very hard to stop it, isn't it? It's hard to kind of keep it under control. Could AI cause the spread of misinformation? Well, yes, of course it could. Because with AI, it's possible to construct, let's say, video or audio content which people don't realize is fake. And we're getting to the point where AI videos are so realistic that we don't stand a chance. And it's going to be, we'll be exposed to apparently real videos of events happening which are completely fake. And it's going to be very hard to identify what's really going on in the world versus what is being fabricated. It's quite frightening, really. Deep fakes are videos of a person talking, and they are incredibly convincing. So you could, for example, emulate my voice and emulate my image, my face, my body, and essentially construct a video in which I'm saying something. And for most people, it would probably be almost impossible to tell whether it was real or not. And that's obviously going to exacerbate this kind of situation where it'll be possible to create fake videos of politicians saying things that they haven't actually said. And this could easily help to do, similar things that we had before, to undermine the sort of political processes in different countries by essentially spreading lies about things. Yes, it's quite frightening. What's the best example of an AI video you've seen to date? Most of the AI videos that I've seen have been pretty obviously AI, because there's something weird about them. Weird stuff happens. They call that hallucinations in the world of AI, where the AI is creating things that don't look real. For example, a picture of someone eating a sandwich and they've got 6 fingers on one of their hands, let's say. Or just a general sense that the physics of that world is not quite normal, or the lighting is unnatural, the movement of people's bodies is strange, or the way that people's appearances shift slightly. It's all a bit inconsistent. But more and more it is getting, very realistic. And the most recent AI footage I've seen has been very convincing. I've seen some videos on YouTube, short videos of martial arts. So what looked like a clip from a fight between a wrestler and a Shaolin monk fighting each other. And it took me, I have to say, it took me maybe 5-10 seconds to work out, oh, okay, this is AI. Because in the beginning, it looks quite real. They're kind of holding each other, grappling each other. And it's not until the monk jumps in the air and kicks the guy in the face that you realize, okay, that's physically impossible. I know he's a Shaolin monk and they can do amazing things, but they can't do that. You can't just float in the air and kick with both feet like that. And then you realize, okay, yeah, this does look strange. This is definitely AI. But it's taking me longer and longer to be able to identify it. And we're only a few years away from AI videos being as ostensibly as realistic as normal videos, I think. Who knows? Maybe it'll never get to the point of being completely convincing. But I'm sure that we'll get to a point fairly soon where it'll take us a long time. And even after watching something for a long time, we still might not be completely sure. So, we are on the cusp of a situation where we could be living in the Matrix, where, essentially everything could be simulated. We could have a simulated world brought down in front of our eyes. It opens the door to all sorts of terrifying authoritarianism through technological means. What a happy subject for a podcast episode. Relevant vocab, fake news, we all know what that is. Clickbait, I have talked about it on the podcast recently. This is essentially titles of episodes or titles of articles which seem to be very, very, very compelling. For example, the Shaolin monks have the secret to learning English. And English teachers don't want you to know. That would be clickbait. Imagine if the Shaolin monks really had all that meditation and kung fu. They just cracked the method for learning English. Clickbait, yes, it's this sort of typical titles of sort of articles which are supposed to grab your attention. Deep fakes, I mentioned, faking someone's video. Bias is essentially, so in the media, traditionally, you would hope that, let's say, newspapers are objective. They don't have a particular political position, that they should be objective and focus on the impartial truth. But bias is when you favour one side over another. Okay, like, some newspapers are biased. You get some newspapers which are right-wing, and they tend to favour the sort of right-wing narratives, so they're biased. And, it can be more and more difficult to spot bias in online articles or videos, to spot when a certain narrative or position is being promoted by something. It can be difficult. Fact checking, I think we understand that's just verifying the information. Source credibility. The credibility is like the trustability or reliability of information. If a source, that's a source of information, is credible, it means that we can definitely trust it. Okay, so source credibility. We talk about credible sources of news. I think a lot of that's been put into question. Even the sources that we've always thought were credible, like the BBC, there are also now counter narratives that suggest that the BBC's version of information is biased in some way. Echo chamber. An echo chamber is a situation in which your own viewpoints, your own opinions are echoed back to you. So an echo is, let's say you're in a cave and you go, hello, 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 echo, echo, echo. That's an echo. It's like your voice coming back to you. And so in social media, on social media platforms, to an extent, we live in echo chambers, because it's a situation where, because you've chosen the accounts that you follow, you tend to just follow the accounts that have a similar worldview to you. You live in an echo chamber where your own views, your own political opinions are essentially just given back to you, and you never get opinions that disagree with that point of view, and so your own views are just repeated back to you, and they're never challenged. That's what it means to live in an echo chamber, and arguably we all live in our own echo chambers when we get news from our carefully selected news sources, and we don't, as a result, we don't get to see the other side of the situation, right? And that ultimately, living in an echo chamber can lead to us being more and more disconnected from a kind of universal impartial truth. Yeah. Examples of some of that language. I always try to check the source credibility before sharing anything online. Do you do that? Deepfakes are getting so realistic they could fool almost anyone, and living in an echo chamber means you only see views that match your own, which can distort reality. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, which is digital sustainability. Sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about the kind of the environmental cost of everything that we do. If something is not sustainable, it means that we can't continue doing things like that, probably because it will ultimately have negative impacts on the environment, and it'll damage our life on Earth. If something is sustainable, it means that it doesn't damage the environment too much. Digital sustainability. We think of the digital world as being probably a safe world in terms of its environmental impact, but this is not necessarily true. All our devices, streaming habits and data centers have a hidden environmental cost, from the energy needed to power massive server farms to the piles of electronic waste that end up in landfills. Technology has a significant footprint. Choosing eco-friendly tech practices helps us reduce this impact. Bit of vocab to look at there. Devices, streaming habits and data centers have a hidden environmental cost. Okay, from the energy needed to power massive server farms. Servers are obviously the big computer mainframes where the internet is stored. It's where the data of the internet is stored and processed in large servers. Server farms are large places, physical locations where there are lots of servers all stored. Server farms. A farm is normally a place where you grow food or breed animals, like sheep or cows or pigs or chickens. These are farms, but we have server farms, which are large locations just where computer internet servers are based, and they require a lot of energy, they require maintenance, they require cooling with water. So there's that, but also piles of electronic waste. So this is just essentially rubbish, but e-waste, as it's known. This is essentially old mobile phones, old computers, old technological devices, which are no longer used and are thrown away, and they contain batteries that have things like dangerous chemicals in them, like lithium or whatever, as well as other potentially harmful metals and other chemicals, and these end up in landfills. These are basically big holes in the ground which are then filled with rubbish. Technology has a significant footprint. That's 30 minutes. Time for me to have a drink of water. Choosing eco-friendly technology practices meaning things we do, helps us reduce this impact. So questions: how are these things good or bad for the environment? E-bikes, electric cars, mobile phones, e-cigarettes or e-books. And those are all things which have been sort of sold to us as being a solution to the climate crisis. E-bikes, electric cars and e-cigarettes, e-books, e-books they save on save the rainforest. E-bikes and electric cars reduce air pollution and reduce the usage of fossil fuels. That's what they say, but are they completely fine? What do you think? Let me have a drink of water and then I'll answer that question in my own words. You can have a think about it too. Let's have a little water break. Here we go. So e-bikes, electric cars, mobile phones, e-cigarettes, e-books, they all contain batteries, and these batteries, when discarded, essentially reintroduce these dangerous chemicals back into the ecosystem, what's the best way to get rid of batteries? Now, everything's got a battery in it now. And I do wonder what happens to those batteries after their life cycle has ended. They just get discarded in some way, and they have to be discarded safely. Also, of course, electricity needs to be produced, and it's produced by burning fossil fuels. I don't know, how do you balance like the difference between a car that's run on petrol and a car that's run on a battery? I've been told that petrol-driven cars ultimately have a much bigger burden on the environment, because there's obviously the fact that we have to extract the petrol from the oil, and then there's the construction of the cars, the burning of the oil, and the transportation of the fuel and all the rest of it, and ultimately it's a very high cost. But battery-powered cars also are not perfectly clean. That producing the electricity for these cars obviously involves either burning fossil fuels like coal, oil or natural gas, or using nuclear-based energy production, which has its own environmental concerns. And as I said, there's also the batteries and how we get rid of them, and also how we actually get the chemicals and metals that we need to make batteries. Obviously, those things have to be pulled out of the ground as well. Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it, trying to make these choices. Relevant vocab: we have e-waste, which is, discarded electronic items. Your carbon footprint. Your footprint is essentially the impact that you have on the world. So your carbon footprint is the amount of carbon that you are personally responsible for introducing back into the environment. Your carbon footprint is made bigger if you, for example, take lots of plane flights in the year, because planes produce a lot of carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere, or if you drive a lot, that increases your carbon footprint, and various other things. Anything that involves you putting more carbon into the atmosphere increases your carbon footprint. Renewable energy is, they say, a vital thing for our future, and this, I suppose, means energy production sources that don't damage the environment. So we're talking about things like solar energy or hydro energy, electricity produced through wind farms or other forms of green energy. This has to be a solution for the future. Planned obsolescence is two of the most ugly words in the English language, I feel. When you buy a piece of technology, apparently that piece of technology, let's say it's, I don't know, what would it be? A mobile phone. It could last for years and years and years and years. But apparently these products are designed to actually malfunction after a certain amount of time, probably after your guarantee or warranty has run out. So the phone is designed to kind of stop working after a certain period in order to encourage you to buy another one, right? So this is planned obsolescence. It's done on purpose in order to maximize profits, to sell more phones. But obviously this is the terrible thing, because it leads to horrendous amounts of waste. Recycling, we all know what that is, and sustainable technology. This is technology that doesn't have a long-term damaging impact on the world. Examples of some of that language: upgrading phones every year contributes massively to e-waste. Streaming videos all day increases your carbon footprint because data centers use huge amounts of energy, and buying from companies that focus on sustainable tech is one way to help. Moving on to the next item. There are 14 items in total. This is number 10, 5 more things. Okay, so AI and automation. AI is rapidly changing how we work and live, from self-checkout machines to language models like ChatGPT. This brings up ethical questions about job losses, decision-making by algorithms, and how far automation should go. Balancing progress with human needs is one of the big debates of our time. So, questions include: how might AI help and hinder the human race? How can AI help us? How can AI hinder us? Hinder is the opposite of help. So it's a bit like to prevent us from succeeding, to hold us back, to harm us. Will ChatGPT and similar software make our working lives easier, or will it make us unemployed? Which arguably could be the same thing. You know, if you're unemployed, then potentially that could be easier, although of course we do need money, don't we? And consider the recent Hollywood writers' strike. There was a writers' strike in Hollywood not that long ago as a protest against the use of AI for writing screenplays and other work. And, you know, the argument is that we have to try to protect the rights of humans to prevent them from being replaced entirely by AI. And writers are perhaps some of the first jobs to be under threat, along with English teachers potentially. Accountants. I mean, name a job, you could probably envisage how AI could certainly replace a lot of people in that sector. How might AI help and hinder the human race? Here's another case study. This is case study 4, how artificial intelligence might help or hinder the human race. So artificial intelligence, AI, presents a double-edged sword, something that has two edges, one that can... So it's advantages and disadvantages, right? It's a double-edged sword, offering immense potential to benefit humanity while simultaneously posing significant risks. Here's a summary of the ways AI might help or hinder the human race. Let's start with the good news. Here is how AI might help the human race. One of the main things is the healthcare revolution, and this is certainly something important to remember. We can all be a bit sort of doom and gloom when we look at AI and the impact it'll have, but we have to remember it could save many hundreds, thousands, millions of lives, especially in terms of diagnosis and treatment of diseases. AI can analyse vast amounts of medical data, including images, patient records, to assist or help in faster, more accurate disease diagnosis, even predicting potential health issues. It can also help discover new drugs and personalised treatment plans. So, you can imagine a situation in the future where, like in some science fiction film, AI could help to, you go to the doctor and AI will scan you, or at least analyze all of the different data in your body as much as possible, and will be able to predict very accurately whether or not you're likely to develop certain health issues, or if you have certain health issues, to be able to pinpoint very specifically and very personally exactly the right treatment for you in very specific ways. That cannot be underestimated. Obviously, the worry is that this will only be available to the rich, right? And that those people who can afford it will get it. But hopefully this is the sort of thing that could be widely available to everyone. And it's hard to, you have to agree that that's a very positive thing. Robotic surgery is another one. AI-powered robots can assist in surgeries, potentially reducing human error and improving precision. It might result in surgeons being out of work, but on the other hand, it could, help us to conduct very specific, accurate forms of surgery. You think of brain surgery, maybe. And accessibility. AI-driven tools can make healthcare more accessible, especially in remote areas, through remote monitoring and virtual consultations. So, it might allow medical treatments to be available to more people in more situations, and that's only a good thing. Scientific discovery and research, accelerated research. AI can process and analyse massive data sets much faster than humans, identifying patterns and accelerating breakthroughs in fields like biology, chemistry and materials science. Who knows, AI might help us to find a cure for cancer and Alzheimer's and all sorts of other things. Complex problem solving. AI can tackle complex problems like climate change modelling, optimizing renewable energy systems, and designing sustainable urban environments. AI might help us deal with the climate crisis in ways that humans can't. Enhanced efficiency and productivity. So generally speaking, AI might make us way more productive and efficient in everything we do. We talk about the automation of repetitive tasks. AI can automate mundane, meaning boring, time-consuming and dangerous tasks across various industries, including manufacturing, administration, customer service, freeing humans for more creative and strategic work. It might allow us to focus our time and attention and energy on other things, which, who knows, it could result in huge leaps in progress for the human race. Optimized operations. AI can optimize, meaning make something work particularly well without any error, without any waste of time, make something much more efficient. It can optimize supply chains, logistics and resource allocation, leading to reduced waste and increased efficiency. Personalization. AI enables highly personalized experiences in education, entertainment and e-commerce. Tailoring, meaning adapting specifically content and services to individual needs and preferences. You know, maybe you could use AI to help you build a learning plan and also then build learning materials and content to help you specifically learn English in ways that you specifically need it to be done, rather than using materials which are sort of non-specific and general to all language learners. And improved safety and security. Cybersecurity. AI can detect and respond to cyber threats in real time, bolstering digital security. Disaster response. AI can analyze aerial imagery after disasters to assess damage, for example, after an earthquake, to prioritize aid and assist in search and rescue operations. AI might help us to find victims of floods or other natural disasters. Autonomous systems, self-driving vehicles and drones powered by AI have the potential to reduce accidents caused by human error and, as I explored in a fairly recent episode, might help fix things like traffic jams and stuff. Addressing global challenges, the list goes on. Climate change. I won't read from all of these things. Agriculture and education, all of those things could be helped with AI. Now, the bad news, how AI might hinder the human race. First of all, the one that we all know about, job displacement and economic inequality. So automation of jobs could lead to people losing work. As AI automates more tasks, there's a significant risk of widespread job displacement. That's where basically people lose their jobs, particularly in industries with routine, predictable work. So you think about low-paid manual labour. So of course, this is where you realise that the people who are hit hardest by this are the sort of low-status people in society. It's always the same. This could lead to mass unemployment and exacerbate, meaning make worse, economic inequality if not managed carefully with reskilling and social safety nets. So we would need governments who have a social focus and social conscience to not only focus on the economy in a way, you know, by allowing big AI driven businesses to, you know, be productive and make all their money for their shareholders and stuff. We also need to protect all of the low skilled workers who could be made unemployed on a mass scale. It depends on how our society operates. What are the priorities? Concentration of wealth. The benefits and profits generated by AI might be concentrated in the hands of a few corporations and individuals, further widening the wealth gap. I wouldn't be surprised, would you? That seems to be the way things are going these days. That we talked about all those benefits, but they might really just benefit only a few people, the ones who actually own the companies, and everyone else is just out of a job. Meanwhile, all of that money, all the money that gets saved, where does it go? Well, it's not going to go to the people who've lost their jobs, is it? Bias and discrimination, algorithmic bias. So this is where AI systems, algorithms, learn to promote or favour certain people over others, that they're not fair, especially if they're owned by the people who want to benefit from them. AI systems learn from the data they're trained on. If this data contains historical or societal biases, the AI can perpetuate and even amplify those biases, leading to discriminatory outcomes in areas like hiring, lending, criminal justice and healthcare. So it could exacerbate existing prejudices. For example, if there are ethnic groups who suffer from low levels of representation, if AI is based on everything as it is now, and certain ethnic groups are just not represented fairly in all the data, then of course then the AI algorithms that are produced as a result are going to continue to marginalize those groups who don't have a voice in perhaps a much more profound way. A lack of transparency. I talked about transparency before. That's the openness of things, so that everyone can access information and aims and methods used by companies and organizations. Many advanced AI models are so complex that even their creators struggle to understand exactly how they arrive at their decisions. This black box problem, a box where no one can see inside it, this black box problem makes it difficult to identify and correct biases or to ensure accountability when errors or harms occur. Basically, we don't understand how it works, so we can't fix it. Privacy concerns and surveillance, so data collection. AI could basically assist in intrusive privacy concerns, the erosion of privacy, the manipulation and misinformation of everything. Deep fakes. AI can generate highly realistic fake images, audio and videos that can be used to spread misinformation, manipulate public opinion, discredit individuals or commit fraud. All it takes is for the wrong people to have control of this technology. Automated propaganda. I'm skipping through some of this. The erosion of critical thinking. So over-reliance on AI for information could lead to a decline in human critical thinking and analysis skills. Basically, when you just ask ChatGPT to give you the answer and you just trust it, then it's a sort of, it removes the human ability to judge things and actually be creative and to think critically about information. And there's other stuff. I've talked about this before in an episode. Was it episode 900 and something? I can't remember what it was now, but it was about the existential threat of AI to human civilization. And that included stuff about security risks and autonomous weapons, which is perhaps some of the most terrifying Terminator level stuff. For example, cyber warfare. AI can be used to develop highly sophisticated cyber attacks, posing new threats to critical infrastructure and national security, so hacking. Autonomous weapons systems like killer robots, basically. The development of AI-powered weapons that can select and engage targets without human intervention raises profound ethical and moral questions about accountability, the escalation of conflict, and the potential for unintended consequences. When you enter an arms race, let's say one side is developing its AI-powered military capabilities. Of course, the other side has to do the same thing in order to make sure that they are not completely subjected to the other side, and you end up with an arms race where the development gets out of control. It's not fully limited by regulations, because you decide, well, this is for military purposes, this is for national defense, so we're not going to regulate it. We're just going to say, okay, just innovate as much as you like and go for it, because this is for our, because the other side, they're not going to be regulating their military AI, so we just let it develop as much as possible, and the results could be catastrophic. Oh God, you've seen the Terminator films. Loss of control and existential risk and superintelligence and more. In conclusion, AI holds the promise of solving some of humanity's most pressing problems and ushering in an era of unprecedented progress. However, realizing these benefits while mitigating the serious risks will require careful ethical consideration. Robust, there's that word again, strong, sound, solid regulation, international cooperation, and a proactive approach to ensuring AI is developed and deployed responsibly with human well-being at its core. Who is going to be responsible for ensuring that we have careful ethical considerations at the heart of this? Robust regulation, international cooperation, and a proactive approach to ensuring AI is developed responsibly. I mean, look at the world today. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be international cooperation. Robust regulation, the big governments of the world, the US government, the Chinese, Russian governments, and the other big governments of the world, are they really being ethical and proactive in a sense, trying to be responsible with human well-being at the core of everything they do? I don't think so. Not right now. I feel like the big governments of the world, everyone's a baddie. Yeah, yeah, it's not nice, is it? It's a worrying time. Anyway, so relevant vocab, we have algorithms, I think you know, bias I talked about, machine learning, which is obvious, job displacement, basically job losses, jobs being moved away from you, people losing their jobs, efficiency, this is being able to do things quickly without using a lot of money or resources or energy, ethics, morality, doing the right thing, and autonomous, systems that do things on their own, right? Examples, some worry that machine learning systems could lead to widespread job displacement. It's important to answer the ethics of letting an algorithm decide who gets fired or hired. Self-driving cars are autonomous, but who is responsible if something goes wrong? Good question. There's an ethical issue. Moving on to number 11 then. Is this going to be more positive? Security practices and technology. Strong cyber security habits protect us from hackers, identity theft, and scams. So we're talking about decisions we have to make about security and technology today. Simple steps like using unique passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and keeping software up to date can make a huge difference. Being proactive about security means fewer headaches later. So questions. Do you always remember your passwords? Do you have a special way to remember them? And have you ever experienced any kind of problem due to a lack of cyber security? For example, has anyone ever accessed your account? So do I remember passwords? These days, yes, I do, because I've got my own special secret system for remembering my passwords. I have a special way to do this. And this is obviously a secret, which I will not be sharing with anyone. But yeah. But we live in a world, our lives are filled with moments where we have to log into things and we have to remember our passwords, then we forget the password, we try and log in again, we're desperately trying to remember the password, you try it 5 times, then you get locked out for 90 minutes, and then you have to regenerate your password, and you have to access your email account to get the password regeneration link, but then you've forgotten the password for your email account, so you have to get into your email account, and that needs two-factor authentication. So you've got to open up your phone, but you realize the phone number that they've got is for your old phone, so you've got to try and find your old phone, plug it in, find your old SIM card, realize it's out of date, and then just throw your laptop into a lake, basically. So anyway, I'll let you answer those questions. Relevant vocab, a password manager. I suppose this is a system, it could be a software system, I think, to manage passwords, that a password manager can do things like generate highly secure passwords for you and help you remember them. I don't use a password manager. Two-factor authentication, this is just ways of making sure that you are who you say you are when you're logging in, and it could involve 2 methods of accessing your account, a password and then probably an authentication code which is sent to your device, something like that. A firewall, this would be a sort of security wall. I think we know what that is, something that protects your internet account. For example, phishing scams, phishing, phishing scams. These are usually email scams which are designed to get you to share your personal information so that people can steal money from your account. I mean, the oldest tricks in the book are like, Dr. Olu Phillips and his wife are looking for someone to hold on to $2 million, and we've chosen you to be the benefactor of this, and we'll let you keep 500,000 of the money if you could just send your name, credit card details, password, number, blah blah blah. Oh really? Wow, lucky me. Dr. Olu Phillips and his wife have chosen me to hold on to their £2 million while they relocate to a different country. That's the most basic form of phishing scam that I can think of. Malware, this is software that is designed to, access your computer. It might be something you have to download. Maybe you end up in a chat room with a scammer who tells you that you have to download a certain bit of software and then allow it to have access to your computer. And at that point, it then steals all of your information, including access to your bank account. Encryption we had before. This is a way of essentially making your data protected by, I guess, sort of scrambling it or locking it behind a security system. Right, so examples of that. I use a password manager so I don't have to memorize dozens of complex passwords. Phishing emails look official but are designed to steal your information. And keeping your files protected with encryption is a smart move. Okay, remember, use the questions, try to answer the questions. This is the best way to use this episode to help with your English. Let's move on to number 12. And remember also, there will be a full vocab list for this on the PDF. A lot of the words and phrases I've mentioned, that I've explained even briefly, they'll be included in the vocab list with full definitions and example sentences, plus memory recall questions to help you remember the vocab. Let's move on to number 12, surveillance and privacy. Surveillance, when we talk about surveillance, we mean essentially carefully watching, kind of like spying on someone or carefully watching someone. It's normally what the police do to someone. They carefully watch them if they suspect them of committing a crime or something. And so in terms of surveillance and privacy, we're thinking about things like the way that our online activities might be watched by security services, the police, for example, and how that intersects with our personal privacy. Out in the street as well, we talk about public security cameras or CCTV cameras, closed circuit TV cameras. So public security cameras, facial recognition and location tracking make our cities safer, but also raise big questions about personal freedom. When does protection turn into invasion of privacy? Societies must decide how much surveillance is acceptable. So, question, do you think your city needs more or fewer security cameras? Well, again, it's a question of balance, isn't it? That you think to yourself, I mean, in a city like London, which has got, I think it's something like London has more security cameras than almost any other European city or maybe any other city in the world. It's one of the most surveyed cities in the world, and the number of security cameras is alarming. I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, you think to yourself, well, it does make London quite a safe place. For example, being on the London Underground these days is much safer than it used to be. And you get the sense that I think people don't get mugged, robbed in the street as much as they used to. It does make the city centre much, much safer. But on the other hand, you are aware that everywhere you go, you are filmed and there's footage of you everywhere. And yeah, these cameras probably do have facial recognition so that if you're in London, the authorities know who you are and where you are at all times. I live in Paris. Do I think that Paris needs more security cameras? I think it's probably okay. I think if there was more crime in the street, if it was more dangerous to be in the city, I would probably say yes, we do need more security cameras. But as it stands now, I feel like, although Paris is not perfect, I think it's all right. There's no pressing need for more security cameras in the city, I think. What about you, where you live? Do you think your city needs more or fewer security cameras? Where do you stand on that? Relevant vocab, surveillance, we had. Facial recognition, this is software that recognises people's face. I mean, facial recognition is pretty good. It's not perfect. For example, most of our phones have facial recognition. If you're an iPhone user, you take photos of people and you go into your phone, your photo app in your phone, and it can categorize the photos by person. It says, here are the people in a lot of your photos, and you can click on the person and it shows you all photos of that person. Now, my daughter, who's 7, and my son, who is 2, they look pretty similar to each other. And I've got lots of photos of both of them, and my phone can't tell the difference. So there's a picture of my daughter, I click on it, and I see both pictures of my daughter and my son in there. So facial recognition isn't perfect, but that's what it is anyway. Public safety, we understand. Personal freedom. Data retention. Retention means keeping data, and privacy rights. Okay, examples. Facial recognition can help find missing persons. Good point. But it also threatens privacy rights. Governments often justify surveillance in the name of public safety, but where's the line? 13, tech company ethics. So I talked about this in part 1 quite a lot with TikTok and Facebook and Meta and stuff, but here's a bit more. So big tech companies shape our lives in countless ways. Their policies on privacy, environmental impact and labour practices can make or break public trust. Supporting ethical companies or boycotting harmful ones gives consumers power. So questions. Are there any tech companies which you refuse to use, which you boycott? So boycotting, to boycott something is to refuse to use it because, let's say, you disagree with the way that they do things. Like, for example, a lot of people I know boycott Amazon because they disagree with the impact that it has on our world. And here's case study 5, big bad Amazon. So have you ever wondered why people have a problem with Amazon? This case study should sort of clarify that. So why do some people boycott Amazon? Let's read. So Amazon's massive scale and business model, while offering undeniable convenience to consumers, have drawn significant criticism for various negative impacts on the world. These concerns span, so they go across these different issues: environmental issues, labour issues, economic and social issues. So they span these issues. They go across, the concerns go across all these issues. Here's a summary of how Amazon is seen as being bad for the world. So first of all, its environmental impact. Massive carbon footprint. Despite comments to sustainability, like the climate pledge aiming for net zero by 2040, Amazon's rapid growth in logistics and transportation. So logistics essentially means transportation. It's more or less the same thing. Things like supply chain or transporting goods, delivery vans, air freight, and data centers. That's Amazon Web Services. They have some of the largest data centers in the world. Leads to substantial greenhouse gas emissions. Reports indicate a significant increase in emissions from its US shipping and deliveries since 2019. Also, excessive packaging waste. The sheer volume of products shipped globally results in immense packaging waste, particularly plastic. Oceana's reports highlight millions of pounds of plastic packaging waste, much of which is difficult to recycle and ends up polluting waterways and oceans. While Amazon has made some efforts to reduce single-use plastic, the scale of the problem remains immense. Destruction of unsold goods. Investigations have revealed that Amazon sometimes destroys huge quantities of unsold or returned products rather than donating or reselling them, contributing to waste. Lobbying against environmental regulations. Amazon has faced criticism for its lobbying efforts against stronger environmental protection laws. And when you realise that Amazon is such a big company, such a powerful company, they do then have a lot of influence, and they're able to lobby or persuade lawmakers to make laws that benefit them, right? Or stop making laws, or stop laws that protect the environment at the cost of the company, for example. This includes those aimed at increasing renewable energy use for data centres, which would be more expensive. Labour practices and worker treatment. Demanding work conditions and high injury rates. Demanding work conditions that demand a lot of effort, energy from the workers. Amazon's fulfillment centers are frequently criticized for demanding productivity targets. This is basically they require the workers to work incredibly hard. Relentless monitoring, so the staff are constantly being monitored, watched, observed, checked. And repetitive tasks that lead to high rates of worker injury, often significantly above the industry average. Lack of breaks and dehumanization. Workers have reported feeling like cogs in a machine. Cogs are the metal parts of a machine that go round and round. If you feel like a cog in a machine, it just means that you don't feel like a human being, but you feel like just a moving part in a much larger machine. With little time for breaks, even bathroom breaks, and a culture of fear surrounding productivity metrics. Basically, if you don't meet your productivity goals, then maybe you will be let go or something. There have also been reports of workers urinating in bottles to meet quotas. Presumably that doesn't mean quotas of urine, but quotas of work that, they've got to meet such high demanding work expectations that they can't afford to go to the toilet. So they just go right there where they're working in a bottle and carry on. An anti-union stance. Unions are organisations that are created to protect the rights of workers, and throughout the years, throughout the ages, have been vital in protecting the basic human rights of people working for massive companies that have all of the money and all of the power. Unions allow workers to get together and essentially protect their rights. And Amazon, surprise, surprise, has a strong history of resisting unionization efforts, essentially preventing their staff from getting together and forming unions, employing various tactics like anti-union seminars, displaying anti-union messages, and alleged coercion, essentially allegedly forcing people not to join unions, to discourage workers from organising, so divide and conquer. I mean, the list goes on. Right, I don't know if you've got the message yet, but these are some of the reasons why people think Amazon is the bad guy, and it includes other things: inadequate support for injured or pregnant workers, the impact as well on smaller businesses as Amazon grows and grows. Smaller competitors don't stand a chance, and more things undermining local economies, lack of seller control, and then of course there is the tax avoidance or tax minimization that they do, where they just allegedly don't pay tax in the countries where they do business. Amazon has faced scrutiny for its aggressive tax planning strategies, which have sometimes resulted in paying very little or even zero federal income tax on significant profits in certain years. I mean, tax is basically a way for companies to give back to the society that has allowed them to make so much money. I mean, it's just fair, isn't it, to pay your taxes? But no, not paying taxes. It's all about taking and not giving anything back. And then there's product safety concerns, and so on and so forth. Now, Amazon consistently highlights its positive contributions, for example, job creation, convenience for customers, and so on. The criticisms are significant, though, and stem from various angles, reflecting the complex ethical, environmental, and socio-economic challenges posed by a company of its immense size and influence. And it does make you think of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Relevant vocab, there's the word boycott. To boycott a company like Amazon. We would all maybe like to when we're face to face with those issues, but it's just so convenient. Transparency, again, our ability to actually see exactly what companies are doing and what they intend to do. Corporate responsibility. These big corporations have a duty to be responsible to the societies that they profit from. Greenwashing. Greenwashing is the idea of using green issues to wash off the sense that your company is unethical. So if a company like Amazon realizes that people seem to think it's an unethical, immoral, evil corporation, and so they will use green issues. They will make statements, release statements like, we have a commitment to net zero carbon emissions by 2040. This is our pledge. And they make a big deal out of this, making a lot of stories about their commitment to green issues as a way of essentially washing their public image and making us think that they're much more ethical than they are. And this practice is known as greenwashing. You have other things like sports washing, which is where big companies do the same thing by associating themselves with sporting events, again, coming across as much more appealing. Greenwashing, data exploitation. Examples: I decided to boycott a certain company because of their data exploitation practices. Some firms talk a lot about sustainability, but it's just greenwashing. Corporate responsibility should include fair wages and ethical data use. I bet that I've got people listening to this, if indeed you still are listening to this, because some people might disagree with me on these things, even though I don't think I'm being particularly political here. I'm just trying to be fair and humane in my treatment of these issues, but I'm sure I've got people who disagree with a lot of the stuff I'm saying. But I'd love to know why. I mean, how can you not see the potential problems in big tech companies? I know we all want to be millionaires. You know, a lot of people want to be Elon Musk. They want to live this fantasy that they can be a millionaire in the tech industry, and the dream is to create your startup and then turn it into some sort of big corporation. But I'd like to see how you'd square this ethical circle here. Let's move on to the last item, and that is tech and well-being. Again, we go back to the subject of our own personal well-being, happiness, health and mental health in relation to technology. So tech can boost happiness by connecting us to loved ones, entertaining us and making life easier, but it can also contribute to anxiety, comparison and distraction. Knowing how to use technology in a balanced way is essential for emotional health. Technology has woven itself so deeply into the fabric of our lives that it's impossible to discuss happiness and unhappiness without considering its pervasive influence. Its impact is a complex interplay of connectivity, convenience, comparison and cognitive shifts. So technology has woven itself into the fabric of our lives. To weave, this means to combine threads together. For example, to make fabric, right? Fabric is weaved together. It's woven together, to be exact, meaning all the individual strands of fabric are tied up together and woven to create a fabric. So something can be woven into the fabric of your life, meaning it becomes integrated or integral to your life. So technology is definitely has woven itself deeply into the fabric of our lives. So I don't know, how can tech make us happy? How can it make us unhappy? Let's start with how it can make us happy. We talk about enhanced connection and social support, bridging distances, but we use WhatsApp, for example, to stay in touch with our loved ones, finding communities. We use social networks to connect with like-minded people, which can be a wonderful thing. Expressing ourselves, social media and other digital tools provide avenues for self-expression. I mean, I can certainly speak about that. Being able to do a podcast, it's been an incredibly fulfilling thing for me over the last 15 and a half years to be able to do a podcast like this, to express myself. I cannot deny the wonderful opportunities that this has given me. It's just been amazing. So I can't deny that. It certainly boosted my self-esteem and allowed me to realize certain personal goals. I think podcasting is absolutely incredible. And there are all sorts of other forms of social expression which have been opened up in a very kind of democratic way. Whereas before I would have had to go through a whole career ladder of getting into a radio station, finding my way onto radio or television. It's so complicated. There's such a hierarchy. Whereas with podcasting, I can just start recording something and do it all myself from the ground up. It's incredible. Also, convenience and efficiency. Technology has streamlined our daily lives and made everything so easy. We can be so much more productive. We have access to all sorts of services. We have access to incredible information and learning opportunities. Everything is at our fingertips. As well as that, there's incredible potential for entertainment. There's so much wonderful entertainment, gaming, vast digital libraries of music and books and stories and TV shows and films. It is unbelievable, the world that we live in, the potential, the opportunities we have, even though sometimes in the evening when you've got a free evening, you think, I don't know what to do. How can I still be bored? And how can I not know what to watch when I've got literally every film that's ever been made available to me? But this does increase accessibility to information, and in theory allows us all to be so empowered, and helps people with disabilities. Assistive technologies, screen readers, voice controlled, specialized apps, all of these things have allowed people with disabilities to access things in a very significant way. That can't be understated. That's so important. And it's given a voice for marginalised people. Social media can amplify the voices of marginalised groups, gives people a voice where in, let's say, mainstream media, they don't have that opportunity. These are all really important things and ways that technology has improved our lives and made us happy. What about the dark side, though? How can tech make us unhappy? Well, there's the social comparison idea that, going on certain social media platforms, you see people presenting an idealized version of their lives, which makes you compare that to your life. And by comparison, you sort of feel a bit bad about yourself. There's that sense of FOMO, again, fear of missing out. Yes, addiction, overstimulation, compulsive use, digital overwhelm, which can ruin our peace of mind. And we think of work, these days when we've got our mobile phones and computers, which are always connected to the world of work through Microsoft Teams, and we're getting Teams notifications at all hours of the day. It means that you can never fully disconnect from work, and this can be exhausting. Our attention span gets reduced. Excessive screen time, passive consumption, negative online interactions, all of these things have been linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression, especially in young people. This technology disrupts our sleep and our sleep patterns, which affects the way our brains work. There's the possibility of cyberbullying and harassment. The anonymity of the internet can make this much easier, which increases significant emotional distress, shame and isolation. Privacy concerns, as I mentioned before, the erosion of trust, physical health issues, the sedentary lifestyle, which can be caused by people sitting in one seat for long periods of time on their phone. This is bad for your cardiovascular system, eye strain, back problems, and the erosion of deeper emotional connections. So in essence, technology is a powerful tool, and its impact on our happiness and unhappiness largely depends on how we use it, how much we use it, and our individual susceptibility to its various effects. Mindful usage, setting boundaries, for example, saying no more mobile phones in the bedroom, no social media after 9 p.m, for example, boundaries, and prioritizing real-world connections are crucial for harnessing its benefits while minimizing its drawbacks on our well-being. How about you? Do you set boundaries? Do you find that certain technological interactions are better for you than others? Like I find podcasts, of course, to be much healthier. And I find just like listening to audio rather than sitting watching video to be a much healthier thing. I'll put my headphones in and I can just move around and do the washing up at home, or do the ironing, or do whatever, walk around. And that I find it much, much better for me than being locked to a screen. What about you? Questions. Does tech help you to be happier, or does it make you unhappy sometimes or stressed? And how do you manage your happiness in relation to technology? Relevant vocab. I talked about dopamine previously. Comparison culture, I mentioned. Distraction, that's where you can't focus on one thing because you're always thinking about what's going on your phone, or you're getting push notifications that ping on your phone. It means you can't focus, you're very distracted. Mindfulness as a way of preventing yourself from being too badly affected by these things. Digital well-being and balance. So everything's about balance. Examples: getting a dopamine hit from likes can be addictive but fleeting, meaning that good feeling doesn't last for long. Social media fuels comparison culture, which often makes people unhappy. And I try to practice mindfulness to improve my digital well-being. Well, that was intense, but that's the end of this double episode now. Again, let me remind you that a lot of this stuff was initially put together. I put together all this stuff initially for my students in my classrooms to help them practice talking about this subject with the discussion questions and the vocabulary and the other input as well. So do use the material I've prepared for you as it was initially intended to be used, which is to help you actually do what I've just been doing, which is to discuss and describe and talk about all these things. I would like you to be able to express yourself on these topics in a similar way to how I've done it. Certainly a lot of the vocab that's come up will be vital when talking about this subject. So review it, check the PDF, link in the description. You'll see all the notes I've been reading from, plus all the questions and full vocab lists. I'll be going back through all of this stuff and making a much more detailed list of vocab items with memory questions to help you remember them. So that is all there for you. Leave your comments in the comments section. I'd love to know your responses to any of the questions which have come up. So please do that. I hope that Luke's English Podcast, as a podcast, as the product of this form of technology, I hope it is a beneficial force. I hope it's a force for good in your life. Of course, we can see that there are good and bad sides to all of these things, and it's really about creating balance and setting boundaries. But I certainly hope the Luke's English Podcast is on the positive side of the scale in your life. Thank you very much for listening to this double episode. I will speak to you again in the next episode. What will that be about? Who knows? I'm going to keep it a surprise. It'll be something different, something completely different from this. But until then, I will wish you a very happy morning, evening, afternoon, or night. Speak to you next time. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Bye. 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 Bye.